In to Purple Daily. I'm Phil Mackey. That's Judd Zulgad. We've got Declan Goff producing in the house. And today's episode is centered around the hot off the presses, freshly posted to ESPN.com Football Power Index rankings, gentlemen.
Index rankings.
Power rankings.
These are actually fun.
So ESPN has their own ranking system. It's the FPI, as it will be known throughout the rest of this podcast, okay? And let's start with the favorites to win the Super Bowl in order. The Vikings are not on this list of 5. So let me give you these 5 teams and then ask you guys, should they be on this list? Should they be ahead of any of these 5 teams?
Sure.
Highest chance to win the Super Bowl, according to ESPN's FPI, the Kansas City Chiefs at 21%, which seems like that's like from a football standpoint. In the NBA, if you're the best team, there's probably a coin flip chance you win the title because you got the best superstar, etc. Football playoffs aren't necessarily full-on crapshoots, but 21% chance to win the Super Bowl is pretty damn high in my estimation. Baltimore Ravens at 17%, New Orleans Saints at 13%, San Francisco 49ers at 12%, and then you go all the way down to 5% for the Dallas Cowboys. Would you put the Vikings ahead of any of these teams?
I think I'd put them ahead of Dallas.
Dallas for sure.
I like Dallas.
I think Dallas might have an easier division potentially.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, but are they that good? Like I think that they are. I think they're a better team than they were in 2019 because I think Jason Garrett, as far as a coach goes, had a terrible year.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, would I put them in the mix? I don't think. I think if I were to sit down with this entire list, I pretty much agree with the teams that you read before Dallas, but I could probably find you a handful of teams that I would probably replace the Cowboys with right now with those teams.
So here's a real quick note on the Dallas Cowboys and why I think projection sites like ESPN's FPI and even Pro Football Focus look at the Cowboys and put them higher up. Like most people would say, well, I mean, they were 8-8 last year. Like what? They were just like they were the definition of like if you put Jason Garrett's face next to a record, like that's what they were 8-8. Like that's just what they've been for a long time. But ProFootballFocus.com had the Cowboys as the 5th highest rated team just based on process and based on advanced statistics in the NFL. Their rankings at the end of the season last year were Niners, Saints, Ravens, Titans, and Cowboys, with the Vikings 6th, just ahead of the Patriots at 7th. So if you look at some of the advanced numbers, they favor the Cowboys and maybe suggest that a better coach can squeeze more wins out of a good roster and out of an above-average quarterback.
Mike McCarthy, that guy, though.
That's what we have to find out.
I don't know about that for sure.
I think the Cowboys are probably a lock to make the playoffs. I don't know if I'd put them as the 5th most likely team to win the Super Bowl.
I think that's very fair.
So if there's a nitpick, it's probably that.
Yep.
All right, let's get to the actual FPI rankings here, and you tell me if the Vikings are too high, too low here. All right, so Chiefs, Ravens, Niners, Saints, Cowboys are the top 5, and this is there's projected wins and then chance to make the playoffs here. And I'll go through some of this. So the Chiefs have a 94% chance to make the playoffs. Ravens 92, Niners 81, Saints 83, Cowboys 69. Nice. Eagles 66%. Eagles are 6th in the FPI. Seahawks, Buccaneers with Tom Brady. Patriots 9th on this list.
That feels high.
With a projected win total of 8.5 and a 60% chance to make the playoffs.
That feels very high
Who
for
at
them.
quarterback?
Their division is still pretty garbage, though, right? I mean, the Buffalo Bills have questions at quarterback.
Yeah, but are they the 9th best team in that?
It feels
in
high.
The league.
It feels high.
They don't feel like a top 10 team to me.
But another thing to note, though, whenever Tom Brady has been out, whether it's Matt Castle or Jacoby Brissett or Jimmy Garoppolo, like they're well above 500 without Tom Brady historically too.
But those felt like good teams. I don't know that the Patriots now are a good team.
That's fair. Buffalo Bills 10th.
Mm-hmm.
So the Vikings are not among the 10 best teams according to FPI.
Pretty
here.
good receiver there in Buffalo, you know.
Stephon Diggs. 11th Rams, 12th Steelers, and the Vikings are 13th on this list. 8.5 projected wins and a 54% chance to make the playoffs. However, they are the number 1 team according to FPI in the division because the Packers are 15th with a 43% chance to make the playoffs. The Bears are 21st and the Lions are 28th with only a 17% chance to make the playoffs. Your thoughts on the Vikings being 13th, but number 1 in the division?
My initial inclination on the Vikings being 13th in the PFI rankings.
It's FPI.
FPI,
Okay.
PFI.
That's Football Power Index.
I'm sorry. I'd like to beg forgiveness of the folks in Bristol. My initial inclination is that it might be a little bit low, given the fact that I think the Patriots could be garbage. I think the Patriots might be terrible. And to go back to the top 10, if I could find teams that I think might be replaced, I don't think it's a given that Stephon Diggs makes the Bills great. I don't know the Bills are a top 10 team. I could easily see, is Josh Allen a good quarterback? I have huge question marks there. And if he's sailing passes over Diggsy's head, guess what? Diggs ain't catching them. Tampa Bay at 8. We are largely buying in, and I'm a big Arians guy, and Brady could be great, but that's wait and see for me. Philadelphia at 6, not a given there.
Yeah.
So my inclination initially when it comes to the Vikings being ranked 13th is that they might be a tad low, and projected wins 8.6. I see more than that right now. But as we're doing this exercise, as June approaches, I'm not shocked. I think it's probably fair, but there's just teams that they've got in that top 10 that I could easily talk myself into the Vikings bumping up, and a few teams, i.e. Eagles, Patriots for sure, Bills bumping back a bit.
Yeah, I find the most interesting thing here is that according to FPI, the NFC North has 3 fairly mediocre teams and 1 really bad team in Detroit. And it doesn't look like a situation where they just think, oh, the Bears, the Vikings, and the Packers are going to beat up on each other. And that's why you've got 2 teams projected at like 8 or 9 wins, and then the Bears sitting there. The Bears are projected at 8-8. The Packers are projected at 8.1 and 7.8, and the Vikings at 8.6 and 7.3. Everything is kind of jammed together.
Yes.
The one thing about these projection systems, and this is the case too when you look at like Fangraphs baseball projections, they all tend to err toward the middle ground. Like the best record projections here are the Chiefs and the Ravens at 11-5 each. But almost every year in the NFL, you have at least one team that's 12-4 or better, if not 2 or 3 teams. So to sit here and say that the range of win-loss totals is 11-5 at the top, and there's only 2 of those teams, and then at the bottom, the worst projected records are Jaguars, Redskins, and Panthers all at 5-11. Like there's almost always a 2-14 disaster and a 13-3 team at the top.
Mm-hmm.
So I would look at this and say, like they're projecting if you round the 8.5 up and say the Vikings are 9-7 and the Packers are 9-7. One of those teams almost certainly is going to be 10-6 or 11-5 just based on history. It's pretty rare that the winner of your NFC North division is 9-7. So let's just start there for a second. Just the conservative nature of these projections, but. Sure. But I'm with you. I look at the teams above the Vikings. Like the Colts have a pretty good roster, but Phillip Rivers is an interception machine the last couple of years. He's my guy, but he's an interception machine. The only reason you would put the Colts above the Vikings is if the Colts have an extraordinarily easier schedule than Minnesota. And the same with the Patriots. Like, and you could probably nitpick some holes. Like obviously I'd rather play the AFC East teams the Patriots play than the NFC North teams the Vikings play, because I think that Green Bay game is tougher twice than any games the Patriots play in their own division. And I might even say that Chicago game is just as tough as like a Bills game or a Jets game or a Dolphins game.
Mm-hmm.
So the Patriots being above the Vikings on this list is exclusively schedule-based to me. Vikings ahead of Packers on this list, I think it's sort of schedule-based too. I don't know exactly how their formula works, but we went through the Packers schedule a couple weeks ago on this show, and the Packers have a couple brutal stretches. The Vikings have kind of a smoothed out, flatter schedule where like the Hall of Fame quarterbacks are spread out. They don't have like a murderer's row 5-game period. The Packers come out of the gate and their first 8 games are like just weather the storm. And I don't know if they factor that into this or not, but it is very interesting that the Vikings are this low on the FPI.
The Packers, though, to me, are ripe for decline. Absolutely ripe. But
not a train wreck though, right? I mean, do you see them like going 7-9 or something? That's kind of what this says.
I could see them winning 8 or 9 games tops and not being great. My question there is you didn't help your quarterback at all. basically, right? You just didn't. And so his skill position players around him last year that Aaron had were not that good. The back was pretty good, but the receivers were not. I could see the Packers declining. I could see there being fighting there pretty quickly. But if you go through this, so the Vikings, as we talked about, were 13. Give me the teams that you think, as we discuss this, are no question definitely better than the Vikings.
Chiefs.
Yep.
Ravens.
Yep.
49ers.
Yep. Saints. I don't know that for sure. They've got Breeze.
I feel like their defense is better than we give it credit for.
I mean, but let's go back. So there's two ways to look at this. There's the Saints in the regular season and all the numbers and everything, right? Like if it's overall Saints and everything and Drew Brees is playing at a high level,
right,
the Saints are better. If it's how do they look when they play head to head?
Well, and
did it look like the Vikings were outmatched and then got lucky? Did not to me.
This list is teams that you would not want to play. Like if I played the Saints, okay.
Chiefs, Ravens, I'll put the Saints on that list. 49ers, or like if it's a road game, you feel like you're screwed, basically, right?
Okay, that's fair.
Seahawks are always on that list.
But Dallas?
That's 5.
No. Philadelphia? No.
Tampa Bay needs to show that they have a 43-year-old quarterback.
Buffalo? No.
Nope. Steelers? No. Patriots? No.
Rams?
Colts? No.
Rams at this point?
No. Not with Jared Goff. No. So basically, there's like 5 or 6 teams where if it was, all right, Vikings are going on the road against these teams, it's very clearly the other team is favored.
Yep.
There's 5 or 6 of them. So percent chance to win the Super Bowl, Vikings are sitting at 2% to win the Super Bowl according to the FPI.
They're sleeping on them.
So they've got the Chiefs at 21,
bulletin board material, Mackey.
Ravens at 17,
yep.
Saints at 13, Niners at 11.5, and then there's a drop to the Cowboys, Eagles, Buccaneers, all at 4 or 3%. They've got the Patriots with a 3% chance to win the Super Bowl over the Vikings at 2%. Do you guys think the Vikings win the Super Bowl 1 in every 50 times, which is what this math says?
Well,
if they play this season out 50 times, do the Vikings win a Super Bowl? The answer is yes.
The years in existence would say probably no, but
no, the answer is yes.
The Patriots are getting, I think, a final nod because of Belichick and their history with him, right? This is clearly to me, it's still the Patriots. You can't sleep on them. I think the Patriots are going to take a huge step back. They don't scare me one bit. I'm sorry. They just don't. Their personnel has been declining too much around their quarterback in the last couple of years.
See, I think they kind of go back to the way they were in the early 2000s where I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl like they did with Brady, but I think all of a sudden now, like they might lose a couple games early or something, but I think they get coached up and their system is so strong that they will win 7, 8, or 9 games by just being
the Dolphins Patriots. Just please pop up? Like we just need a team in that division besides them to pop up, okay?
Yeah, the Dolphins are projected to win 6 games according to this. The Jets, according to this, are projected to win 7, and then the Bills are right there with the Patriots.
Here's my question:
500-ish.
And this team in the in these rankings comes in 29th. Here's my question. Here's my dark horse, and I can't figure out if they're just going to be awful or actually surprise us all. Carolina Panthers.
It's all up to Teddy, man. Like
a lot of it's up to Teddy. Coach he might be.
I mean, if
they've changed things, but I don't know that that's a bad thing. They weren't that good last season.
The Teddy conversation is so the Carolina Panthers are middle of the pack on this list. They actually, I take that back. The Panthers are the Panthers are a 6-10 team according to this, so they are one of the 5 worst teams on this list.
So 29th in the rankings.
I saw 6-10 and thought, that's kind of middle of the pack, but this actually puts them like these records put them at the bottom here.
Sure.
If Teddy Bridgewater is a top 10 quarterback, which I think fringe top 10 is in the mix for Teddy once he starts to get some regular playing time in the mix. There's no way that team is 6-10. They're more of a 500 team or better. But I think everyone, including FPI, is waiting to see, is Teddy Bridgewater going to fulfill like what everyone thought before the injury? But there's nothing that says right now, yep, Teddy's the 10th best quarterback, therefore we're going to factor that into the rankings.
Yep. I could easily see them going 10-6. Easily.
Yep. I could too. All right, that's a wrap on this episode of Purple Daily. We appreciate everyone who subscribes to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ScoreNorth for daily Vikings videos. And on the podcast front, Apple, Spotify, or ScoreNorth.com for that daily Vikings content in your ears. We'll be back with another episode of Purple Daily.